Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show engineered to cut through the information static and deliver the insights you truly need. Today, we're casting our net pretty wide, actually. We're exploring something many of you are thinking about, property investment. But with a really crucial twist making that first move onto the global stage. It's that kind of exhilarating moment, when you realize you can genuinely shape your financial future, whether that's a high-yield rental unit somewhere dynamic, or maybe a dream vacation home overseas, or just that solid strategic investment property promising long-term growth. But navigating this first global step, it can feel huge, packed with opportunity, sure, but potential pitfalls too. And that's exactly why our deep dive today zeroes in on first-time global property investment essentials. We spent a lot of time combing through sources, including some really invaluable stuff from Global Property Edge with Oak to boil it all down. We've got the top 5 tips for not just getting into international real estate, but actually thriving in it. It's complex, yes, but so rewarding. Think of this as your roadmap.
A bit of a shortcut, maybe, to getting those key insights. You can sidestep the common mistakes, build real confidence, whether you're looking at home or, abroad.
Exactly. And that, for you listening, is really our mission here. We're here to pull out the most important bits of knowledge, the real insights from all this material, give you a clear framework, something actionable, because let's face it, it can feel like drowning in information sometimes, our goal. To arm you with solid strategies, a real gut-level understanding of what matters most. So you leave this deep dive feeling not just informed, but actually confident. Ready for those first steps on your global property journey.
Okay, great. So let's dive in. Our very first tip, it's foundational, almost philosophical, you could say, but absolutely critical for global thinking. And start with clarity. Know your why. Before you even glance at a listing, our sources are really hammering this home. Ask yourself why. Why are you doing this? What's the core driver, especially when you're looking beyond your own backyard?
Precisely. And what's interesting is how the material stresses that your why isn't just, a nice-to-have feeling. It fundamentally shapes every single strategic choice you make in global property. Every single one. Are you after, say, steady rental income from a stable market in Europe? Or is it more about rapid capital appreciation, the property value itself shooting up, maybe in an emerging Asian market? Perhaps it's about building a diverse retirement pot. Or maybe finding that amazing place abroad that, doubles as a vacation spot. Lifestyle and investment, each of those whys, they demand totally different approaches. Different markets, different financing, different risk levels.
It really does guide everything, doesn't it? The source makes such a key point, especially for investors used to their home turf, like Canada or the US. Defining that why becomes your absolute compass. It guides the country, the city, the type of property. Think about the contrast, right? A shiny condo in Dubai aimed at growth and short stays. That serves a completely different function than, say, a townhouse in Houston set up for long-term, steady rent. Your strategy just has to match that initial goal, has to be crystal clear.
Absolutely. And getting that clarity up front, it's your best defense against expensive mistakes later, especially in places you don't know well. If you're totally clear on your motivation, you can filter every global opportunity through that lens. You won't get easily swayed by flashy trends or just chasing what everyone else seems to be doing. The source even gives a quick action for you right now. It suggests you actually write down your top 3 reasons for investing and keep them right in front of you during your search. It's not just homework. It's like an anchor in these complex global waters.
That's really solid advice for keeping grounded. Okay, so once that why is locked in, the next big job starts, your homework. Tip number 2 is do your homework. Market research is key. And honestly, this is where it gets really interesting because, as the sources just keep emphasizing, markets move differently, not just city to city, but profoundly country to country. What's happening in one global hub could be the total opposite elsewhere.
Which raises a huge question for you as a global investor. What exactly should you be researching? Beyond just the basics, well, the source breaks it down meticulously. First, rental yields. You absolutely have to scrutinize those. That's your annual rent income as a percentage of the property price, basically. But crucially, how that's calculated can vary a lot internationally. Gross yield, net yield, you need to compare apples to apples. Then, you've got to dig deep into property taxes and fees. They don't just vary widely. Sometimes it's drastic. Think local transfer taxes, stamp duties, ongoing council taxes or levies. And then there are government policies. Huge variations here, too. Things like investor visas in some places trying to attract money versus really tight restrictions on foreign ownership in others, maybe even capital controls. Getting into this level of detail, that's what separates a smart global investment from just, a gamble.
It really drives home that point. Globalization means opportunities are everywhere, but the due diligence is on you. You just can't assume things work like they do back home. For example, the source gives a great illustration. While Toronto or Vancouver might be slowing down, places like Dubai or certain U.S. states like Florida and Texas are seeing major growth. Hello, these aren't small differences. They're fundamentally different market stories, driven by totally unique forces, local and global. Your research has to uncover that, reflect those gaps.
Yeah, and it's crucial not just to think of the trends and the headlines, but to really get underneath them. Understand the why behind them, the economics, the demographics, maybe even the geopolitics driving those global shifts. If you connect this to the bigger picture, well, shallow research, especially somewhere unfamiliar, it just opens you up to huge avoidable risks. There's a great pro tip in the source here. It's actionable too. Start by researching at least 3 markets and compare their ROI potential. And ROI, return on investment, we're talking total gain versus what you put in. They suggest using reliable sources, local brokers, and even government websites.
Mhm.
For global stuff, that means finding credible, unbiased international data providers, talking to local agents with a proven track record, and definitely checking official government or regulatory sites for the real scoop on policies.
That's a fantastic, really structured way to approach it. Okay, moving to tip 3. This one tackles a really common fear, I think, for first-timers. Let's unpack this. Your first global leap doesn't need to be some massive multi-million-dollar penthouse. Tip 3 is simply start small and smart.
Exactly. And there's real wisdom in starting smaller, especially when you're first dipping your toe into international waters. It's about minimizing that initial risk, your capital exposure. It's also about gaining priceless experience, boots on the ground experience in a new system, and building your confidence, navigating different legal stuff, financial systems, even cultural norms. The source points to things like a studio apartment in a developing neighborhood, maybe in Europe, or a single family home in a high demand rental area, perhaps in a U.S. secondary city. These let you learn the process without betting the whole farm right away.
And it's not just about tiny places either. For North American investors, the source specifically suggests looking beyond the huge names. It says, consider secondary cities or suburban hotspots rather than just chasing Manhattan or downtown Toronto or even London or Paris. Often these other spots deliver better yields, lower prices to get in, and maybe less crazy market swings for a first-timer. Think outside the big headline cities. Look for places with strong local economies, even if they aren't globally famous.
Precisely. Smart isn't the same as big. It means being strategic, measured. Which brings up a really important question for you. What's your personal risk tolerance? Your comfort zone, stepping into a new, maybe less familiar market. Starting smart lets you really learn the ins and outs of international property ownership, understand how different markets tick, and refine your own strategy without the immense pressure of a huge, high-stakes first investment.
It's about building a solid foundation, brick by brick, so you can scale up later confidently.
Building that foundation, yes. And a huge part of that bedrock is understanding the money, how it works in international real estate. Which brings us neatly to tip number 4, understand financing and leverage. Because let's be real, the money side of any property deal is critical, always. But it gets layers, extra complexity when you cross borders. Knowing how to use your capital, protect it, especially with markets bouncing around internationally, it's just non-negotiable. It really is. So for first-time global buyers, the source maps out some key financing paths. Domestically, the advice is straightforward. Get pre-approved for a mortgage. Know your borrowing power at home first, but internationally. The path can look very different. You'll need to explore financing options where some countries allow foreign investors to get up to 50–75% financing. That sounds great, but getting a loan from a local bank in another country, that can be tough. Often needs a big down payment, maybe a local bank relationship, sometimes proof of local income. The options really do vary hugely by country and by lender.
And it's not just about getting the loan, is it? You have to be super careful about all the other money bits that get complicated internationally. The source really stresses this. Always factor in interest rates, foreign exchange rates, and closing costs. These are not small details. A bad swing in the currency, higher closing fees than you expected, that can seriously dent your returns or even make it hard to pay the mortgage. And think about things like capital gains taxes differing or rules about getting your money back home eventually.
This is exactly where understanding leverage, that double-edged sword, is so vital. Leverage, using borrowed money to potentially boost returns. It can amplify your gains if the market goes your way, for sure, but misuse it. Or if the market takes an unexpected hit, especially with currency swings on top, it can just as easily magnify your losses. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it just screams how important financial literacy is in global investing. way beyond just property specifics. The golden rule from the source. It's non-negotiable for this reason. Never invest more than you can afford to hold long-term, especially in a fluctuating market. That means having enough cash cushion, enough to cover empty periods, unexpected fixes, or market dips without being forced into a bad sale.
That's a powerful golden rule, even more critical globally, I'd say. All right, we've covered your why, the crucial research, starting smart, mastering the money side. Now for tip 5. This is all about the people. Build your power team. Because honestly, international real estate, it's not a solo sport, not at all. It's a sophisticated team game. You absolutely have to surround yourself with the right expertise.
This might be the most crucial piece, especially when you're stepping onto the global stage. Local knowledge is everything. The source is really specific about who you need on your team. First, a trustworthy real estate agent or broker, intimately familiar with your target market. Not just someone who shows houses. A local pro. Understands the culture, language maybe, local licenses, can even find deals before they're public. Then, a reliable property lawyer. Absolutely non-negotiable. One who gets both local and international laws. Just imagine trying to figure out property laws in a country where all the documents are in another language, and the legal system is totally different. Your lawyer. They're your translator, your cultural guide. They stop you making potentially very expensive mistakes around things like inheritance, registration, clear title.
And it doesn't end there, right?
Right.
Just think about international taxes.
Oh, absolutely. You also need a tax advisor, someone who can help structure your investment efficiently. This expert navigates the tax treaties between countries, helps avoid paying tax twice, understands local capital gains rules, and just keeps you compliant both where you live and where you invest. And then, especially if you're investing overseas, a good property manager is vital. Essential. Trying to manage a rental remotely. Across time zones, different cultures, it can be a total nightmare. You need someone trusted on the ground handling tenants, maintenance, local rules, emergencies. These people aren't optional extras. They're your safety net and your accelerator.
Yeah, that carefully chosen network. It genuinely can make or break your whole investment journey. Trying to DIY it, especially across borders with different laws, cultures, even ways of communicating. It's like wandering into a dense jungle without a map, a guide, or even a compass. The right team just heads off so many risks you might not even see coming.
And what's really highlighted here is how specialized that knowledge needs to be for different regions, like the unique market in Dubai versus the diverse situation across Europe or the fast-growing economies in Asia, as the source notes. It's not just about finding an agent or a lawyer. It's finding the right people, people with that deep local know-how, cultural fluency, a strong network there. They become your eyes, your ears, your legal shield, protecting you and boosting your chances in that global arena.
All right, before we wrap this up, we've got a bonus insight, a sort of fundamental mindset shift that really underpins everything else we've talked about. It's this: think long-term, not just short-term games.
This is maybe the most important principle for building sustainable wealth through real estate, especially globally. As the source puts it so well, markets rise and fall. But real estate rewards those who think in years, not months. If you connect that to the bigger picture, well, real wealth building in international property, it's almost always a marathon, not a sprint. Patience really is key. Global markets can swing even more due to politics, economics, currency changes, more than domestic ones usually.
And when you adopt that long-term view, you start looking past the immediate noise, right? The day-to-day fluctuations. The source advises, look for markets with infrastructure growth, stable governance, and increasing population trends. These are the big underlying factors that really support long-term value growth. They give your global investment that solid foundation, that room to grow steadily over time, over decades even. Think about big transport projects, demographic shifts, regional economic integration, things that promise sustained development.
And this disciplined, long-term mindset, it applies everywhere, universally. Whether you're investing in established markets like Canada or the US, or exploring dynamic opportunities in Dubai, across Europe, or in Asia's growth regions, it's about understanding the fundamental, enduring drivers of value in any market, and then having the discipline to let those powerful forces work for you over time, instead of just chasing quick flips, which often carry way more risk.
And there you have it, our deep dive into the essentials for your very first global property investment. Let's just quickly recap those top 5 tips and that bonus insight to guide you. First, know your why, get crystal clear on your purpose. Second, research your markets, really understand the global differences, don't just follow hype. Third, start small and smart, build confidence. Learn the ropes smartly. Fourth, understand financing and leverage, master the money, especially internationally. And fifth, build your power team. You absolutely cannot go it alone. And that crucial bonus, always think long-term, not just short-term gains.
Indeed. And just to leave you with a final thought, something to chew on, remember that property investment, especially globally, as our source makes clear, isn't some get rich quick scheme. Not at all. Instead, view it as a deliberate strategy for building long term wealth and stability. Cool. So, this raises an important question for you to think about. How can you apply this same approach, this disciplined, patient, thoroughly researched method, this commitment to the why, the homework, the right team, the long view? How can you apply that not just to property, but maybe to other big financial decisions in your life? By mirroring that patient, well considered approach we've discussed for global property, how might you cultivate lasting financial security and truly shape your own future wherever in the world that journey takes you?